What's up everybody, welcome to part 7 of this mixing and mastering intermediate level tutorial series. I am Clormo, and today I'm going to be talking to you specifically about how to properly use reverb and apply reverb to our mix. So there's a lot to cover. I want to try to keep the video as short as possible with the amount of philosophy that I want to be covering. So with that being said, by philosophy I'm just saying that there's more of the practical side than just me trying to get the reverb here to sound exactly as I want it. So I don't want to waste too much time. Let's go right into Logic Pro X. This is what we have from our previous part, and I'm gonna be concentrating mostly on the snare. I'm gonna be doing some stuff on the crash and shaker as far as the drums, and then on the instrumentation part I'm just gonna do the synth portion, just to keep this as short as possible. Then the next part you're gonna see that I probably will have applied reverb to a few more things. I'm gonna also recap that at the end so that you go ahead and practice it yourself, and we'll take it from there. Okay, so the first thing that I want to tell you guys is that typically, for those of you that don't have enough experience dealing with putting effects and using buses and auxiliary tracks, like I was in a time, we tend to put reverb right at the channel strip or our different tracks, right? And that's not to say that it's wrong, that it's obviously doable, right? The program lets you do it, so there's no problem with that. The issue might become when you are trying to process a big amount of tracks. I don't have that many here by any stretch of the imagination, in my opinion. But if you have something like 50, 60, 70 tracks for some reason, right? If your genre calls for that, or your creativity ends up with that, then you can see how that can become a problem. You put in so many reverb effects on different tracks, and that's only going to result in bogging down your resources in the computer, etc., etc. So what I want to show you first is how to be more efficient about it. And this is something very subtle, very easy, and applies to any effect that you want to apply, or any sort of technique that you want to apply for a certain amount of track, or a certain sound, or a certain range of frequencies. What I'm going to do first is I'm just going to take my snare. I'm going to take my crash. Let's see. Right. I'm gonna also take my shaker, and I'm gonna process those through an auxiliary track. So what I'm gonna do is click here, and I'm gonna start at bus 20. I just like to keep separation. It doesn't matter, you can do whatever you want. And it added this new auxiliary track too. Notice that I already have an echo here and a reverb. This was from when I originally created the tracks. A few of the instruments, I can't remember which ones, brought this to. I'm gonna keep them there just in case. I actually want to use this reverb here, this platinum reverb in this example. Now I'm gonna take my synth, my main synth, and let's see if I want to take something else. Probably the monster also, because it's gonna be kind of the same thing. So I'm gonna do a bus 21, and there's a different track there. And right now, this reverb itself, it's in, let's see. That seems to, yeah, that's the problem. I have it there available, but it's not being tied to anything here right now. That's kind of a glitchy way of Logic doing things, because I really, when I paste it in place, I kind of screwed that up. So I'm not going to deal with this too. So what I'm going to do though is I'm going to go to the clap, and I'm going to introduce another one as well. just for the sake of this example. So I have now these 3 aux tracks where I'm gonna be dealing with my reverb, and I'm gonna route the applicable instrument or tracks into those. Why do I have 3? Why don't I have 10? Why don't I have 1? It all depends on what you want to do. If you already know, like I said in the first videos, that you are thinking of putting some reverb on certain things, and that you are already thinking about how to process those reverbs. If it just ends up being 1, fine. You just put 1 and process everything through it. It won't make it. It won't be bad, right? It won't be something that you did wrong, because you can control now the amount of reverb that you're putting into each instrument by controlling the knob on the actual auxiliary track on the bus, right? So you have your reverbs here, and then all your effects for that regard, and then you control the amount here. So fine, you can actually have 1 if you want. But if you already know that you want to have different results and just different tones, then it doesn't hurt to put more than 1. Again, you are saving resources for your computer. You're making it more efficient. For those of you that do not know what reverb is, if you have gone this far in the video, reverb is not just simple as how the sound travels and bounces back from a certain room. So reverb, in a nutshell, is just creating the sense of space in your tracks. So it's very important, and it gives you a more complete sound. So with that being said, what I'm gonna do here, I'm just gonna label this different ways so I know what I'm doing and what I'm controlling. So I'm gonna call this one, actually that should be the one. Yep, so that should be the one that I'm gonna put in my drum. So I'm gonna call that plate. Aux 3 is the one that I'm doing on my synths. All right, we can double check that there with the little pop-up. So I'm gonna call that large. And then for the clap, which is 22 aux 4, I'm gonna call that small. And that's how I'm gonna proceed. So I'm just gonna copy for the small. I'm gonna go ahead and copy the platinum verb because I already have it there. I'm not gonna be using it in that aux track. Then here for the plate, I'm gonna go with the space designer because that's the one that I typically use the most. I know it a little bit better. It has also a very nice visual aid of the impulse response, which is just a sample of how a certain sound bounced off a space. So I'm gonna go here with large spaces. I'm gonna go plate reverb, and I'm gonna do snare plate. You'll see how that changed. I'm gonna leave that there for now. Then under large, I'm also gonna do, actually I'm just gonna copy it from here. You know how to copy from one track to the other. Just leave your option key pressed and then drag. I'm gonna do another large, would be end up being a large, but I'm gonna do a room. Let's see, actually a spring. I'm gonna use a spring reverb here. And bright. So you see the samples different. Then your settings down below are different. The one that we will probably concentrate the most is your wetness, because that's gonna mix in the reverb with your instrument. So that's one to look at. And then let's see, the length is also a good one. That's the time that is gonna take the reverb to go away, right? How much it's gonna last. So that's also gonna give you enough control over the reverb to get the results that you're looking for. You can always look at the other parameters, but I'm just telling you that's kind of where you want to concentrate your effort on. And then for the platinum reverb, which is kind of an older plugin for reverb from Logic, still good, still works. The reverb time would be the equivalent to that length. So that's what we're going to concentrate here. We already have the wetness there. We can introduce some pre-delay and some other parameters here, but important to note will be the room shape. If you haven't seen videos from me in the past where I deal with this, you're going to see how that affects graphically, also give you an idea. And then that. So I'm just going to concentrate on the plate. So first of all, I'm going to solo that snare. I'm going to start from here. And let's start just adjusting stuff here and seeing what happens. I'm going to be exaggerated first. So with the parameters that we have by default, notice how that affected already the snare, right? If I go all the way through, I am going to be editing the parameters here, and let's see how that works. Obviously, going too wet right now and going all the way, it's making me clip. We don't want that, right? So that's something that we'll need to work with. I'm gonna start reducing that intensity. So you get enough already with that little amount to change the sound. And also we're not clipping. So all I did there was show you that although this is probably the preferred way of dealing with reverb and any effect for that matter, and you have more control, you don't want to overdo it, I would suggest that you do the same thing that I did. Start with a little bit more exaggerated amount so that you can get an idea of how the sound is being transformed, and then start to go down until you hear just enough of it that works but doesn't destroy your ears or clips like crazy or makes the sound just bad. So I actually like to just put enough because I already like the snare sound as is. So if you just add reverb all along, all the way through to everything, then you're going to end up with just something different completely. In my opinion, it's like a waste of time, right? You spend so much time to make your snare sound like you wanted it and sound nice, right? And then you just put reverb and everything sounds like a bad echo, right? So that's that. I'm gonna do the same thing for everything where I'm applying the plate. Actually, first I want to deal with the length a little bit. So that's that. Notice how the sample moves around, right? So what we can do is we can further alter that by doing this. And also the size can be controlled here. That's another good one. But that just gives you an idea of how to deal with that. So I'm gonna move along, and I'm gonna just put some. So that sound is gonna be maintained, or that type of deep reverb is gonna be maintained for everything that's going to bus 20. So I'm just gonna keep going along. Let's keep moving along. Okay, so I'm gonna leave that there. I'm gonna move to the clap, which I'm doing on aux track, now called small. I'm gonna bring my platinum reverb, and I'm just gonna do the same. So I'm not gonna talk too much now. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead. Of course, I should solo that. You have some presets available here as well. I'm not gonna use those. I'm just gonna deal with the two parameters that I told you. I'm just gonna make this. It's already wet. Gonna put some more reverb. The other room shape just changed. I'm gonna keep that at 4. I'm gonna start. So you see how little I have to do just to get the idea. Now I'm gonna. So I think that's good enough. See, spread that a little bit more. Then here you have your kind of equivalent to your EQing. You're going to see at the end another thing that I would recommend to do. Yep, so now let's do that small. I mean that other large. Space Designer. So let's start here with this guy. Yeah, my apologies for moving this thing around so much, but it is what it is. Okay. There's some low frequency content already on that synth. So that's gonna... Now I wonder if that's the... No, that's just the... I didn't do here a lot of spreading of the synth. So it's not sounding that great with that spring. And let's see without. Sounds a little bit muddier. I'm just gonna control the wetness a little bit. Okay. Pre-delay. Yeah, I don't wanna really do that. So I'm gonna leave that there. Then let's go to the monster. It's probably gonna be the same. That's good enough. I think that's good enough. And now, so I hope that gives you the full idea of the philosophy behind dealing with processing reverb on your tracks, which is the main thing that I wanted to discuss here. But last but not least, obviously, we have more control now that the reverbs are on their own track, so to speak. So you can also, especially for that synth, that kind of a large spring reverb was not exactly working how I wanted. come here and you can just actually can just put a channel EQ and have even more control over what frequencies I'm gonna let through that reverb aux track. So just the same philosophy as before. Yeah, there's pretty much a lot of low frequency content. So I can just give a little bit more of the high end. Because I should say low and mids are coming through here. I can cut off a little bit of the lower end. Maybe I overdid it. I'll just leave it there. So that's another thing that we can do further. We can put our effects on different aux tracks, make sure that we set them up the way we want, make sure that they give us the results that we want with an example track, right? Like the representative track. And then if you know you can spread that out into other tracks but with different amounts, then this is how you would do it. And then you can introduce more control over the different auxiliary tracks and the different effects by adding channel EQ. You can add compression, you can do all sorts of things, and all of that you have to be thinking about. How do I not only make it sound like I want through the effect, but also helping in a sense to give us more volume, right? Upping up the levels or keeping them where we want them. And all of that interaction is going to affect that, right? So just keep that in mind when you're doing it, and you will see that you won't have to overthink this that much. It will become second nature. Let's just check the levels real quick in the end. I'm going to take it to the beginning. So our levels seem to be in check. I had to notice that my kick sidechain is clipping like crazy. Well, not like crazy, it's clipping that it makes me a little bit uncomfortable. So we can just add the adapted limiter there as well, and just keep that from clipping. But I'm just gonna copy the one that I have on my master track. There you go. Now I'm not clipping. That's important to keep in mind too, and it didn't affect my levels, so that's just a bonus of this video, I guess. I'm gonna save that, and then on the next tutorial, on the next part, you're gonna see a little bit more of refinement probably on my reverb. I'm gonna take the time to do that. I expect you to do the same thing if you're following with the example, and that way you can give your own amount of reverb to the tracks and just make it yours, okay? So I don't want you to just do what I'm doing here without thinking through it and practicing it yourself. And that's gonna be all for now. In the next video, I'm gonna be doing kind of the same thing, but with some creative effects, especially delay, and doing a little bit of automation just to get that in there. And aside from automation for this, I'm gonna do probably some compression trick also with the auxiliary tracks. I'm not sure if that's gonna be too confusing for you, just because I'll be doing already like a second video on kind of the same thing, right? So I hope that one goes a little bit faster. Anyway, as usual, if you found value in this video and you liked any of the anything that I've just discussed, right, any of the techniques, please leave me a like on the comments, subscribe to my channel, Clormo. If you have any further questions or you want to share some of your knowledge, something that You may want to have others that are watching this video also take into consideration. Just leave a comment below. If you don't want the public to see your comment, then you can also contact me through my social media pages, and everything is in the description. The other parts are also in the description if you want to watch them. So before I say goodbye, I wanted to say thanks to everybody that has subscribed recently. Finally went above another milestone, 700 plus subscribers, I think, at the time of recording this video. So I am very, very thankful for that. Only 300 or 290 something more to go to get to the goal for this year to reach 1,000. So help me do that. If you don't want to subscribe yourself, but know of anybody that might be interested in doing so, just share this and help me out in that way. I promise you that when I get to 1,000 subscribers, you won't hear me saying this anymore. Okay, so we're reaching the end of this mini series. I hope you're enjoying it. Yeah, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out, people.